Welcome one and welcome all to the Breakthrough You podcast. I'm your host, Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership, and thank you for spending this part of your day with me here. Here on the Breakthrough You podcast, we like to break down big, complicated changes in our lives into meaningful, manageable, bite-sized baby steps. Because if you want to be somewhere completely different in a year from now, if you want your life to be completely different, you're going to have to do something about that. You're going to actually have to make changes in your life to accomplish that. Before we get into today's and this week's activity, what I want you to think about is what your goal is. For those of you who have been listening for the past few months, you know what your goal is. And for those of you who are new, well, let's talk about that briefly. So there's 3 different areas I want you to look at in your life. First area, I want you to look at your health. What are you doing in your life that's actually helping you accomplish the goals that you have set for yourself in terms of your health and your body? The second area I want you to look at is your relationships. A lot of times we focus on the quantity of our relationships, on how many friends or followers we have, on how booked our social calendar is. But I want you to take a shift. I want you to look at this differently. Instead of looking at the quantity of our relationships, I want you to look at the quality of our relationships. I want you to look at how deeply connected you are to the people around you. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, your kids, your loved ones, your not as loved ones. Look at how deeply connected to those people you are. And the third area I want you to look at when you're thinking about setting goals or improving in your life in general is I want you to look at the area of wealth. So that could be your career, it could be your income, it could be your savings, it could be your future planning, it could be the house that you live in. I want you to look at how happy and how satisfied are you in that area of your life, in those areas of your life, and what steps are you taking to actually get to where you would feel satisfied and where you would feel like you've made the most improvements. So keeping in mind all of those areas of our life, we touch on all 3 of them throughout the course of this podcast. So this episode, this week's challenge, I guess I should say, is more geared towards our bodies, but can also be really important way of looking at different areas of our lives. So today I want you to take on the task of tracking your food intake for a week. And there's great apps out there that you can use, or you can just write it down on a piece of paper. It's the exercise of being mindful and understanding what goes in and what comes out. And this isn't just a food thing. You can do this in terms of how much energy and effort are you putting into your relationships and what are you getting out? How much energy and effort are you putting into your career and is it paying off the way that you'd like it to? So this week's challenge is to track your food intake for the week. And most of us have a relatively limited diet. So it's not necessary to track our food every single day for the rest of our lives, but you might find the results of this week's challenge interesting because you might start to see patterns or develop patterns. I like to use the app MyFitnessPal, and I track every calorie that I eat for a whole week. Everything. From the calories that I am proud to announce to the chips I ate before bed the other day. Try to stick to your normal routine. Don't try and, just because you're being monitored or you're self-monitoring yourself, don't change your habits. The whole point of this is to understand where your baseline is. So stick to that normal routine. You're not trying to eat perfectly this week. You're just trying to measure what your normal behavior would be. And after about a week, what I want you to do is look at the average calories that you've eaten, the average fat, the carbs, the protein, or what we call the macros. And then from there, you can figure out what changes do you need to make in order to get to the goal that you've set for yourself. Then all you have to do is actually make those changes and repeat the process again. So this is an activity that I would recommend doing maybe 3 or 4 times a year and just getting that baseline of where are we right now? How is my normal diet serving me? And what kind of little improvements do I need to make along the way? So for those of you who are new to the Breakthrough You podcast, All I ask is that you track your food for the week and then look at that data and figure out what you need to do after that. For those of you who are veterans here and you've been doing this for a while, what I recommend is building this into your regular routine, say 3 or 4 times a year, so that you recognize where that baseline is. It's those tiny little adjustments that are so much easier to make along the way that will stack up and make huge changes over the course of a year. 52 weeks of small incremental changes is going to get you so far away from where you currently are now, you'll be proud of yourself when you did. All right, everyone, that's it for today's challenge, this week's challenge. I will see you again next episode for next week's challenge. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm Coach Molly from 3 Pines Leadership. This has been the Breakthrough You podcast. I'll see you again soon. Remember, I love you.